So I want to talk about ignoring the 3D, especially if you're in no contact with the SP, because this is a very common question that came up: is how do I ignore the 3D when things are not favorable to me and I'm manifesting an SP? And this was a question that was asked in my Burning Manifestation Questions video a few days ago. So you can go there, ask whatever questions you have, and sometimes I'll just give you tips and tricks and advice. So go ahead and do that. Or I might even make video content for you for the most frequently asked questions and topics that I see, which is what I'm doing here. Ignoring the 3D. Some people can outright ignore the 3D without creating any resistance to it. Okay. And it works for them. But for the majority of people, that doesn't quite work because the 3D is always in your face, especially with the SP, especially on the topic of SP. You might be able to do it in other areas of your life, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, and just ignore the 3D. But with the SP, you're constantly thinking about them. So I get it. So, first of all, you don't need to ignore the 3D in order to manifest. I want to clear this up, okay? It's a buzzword. Ignore the 3D, ignore your circumstances. No, what you want to do instead is you want to acknowledge it. Acknowledge the 3D. Acknowledge that, okay, this is how you get rid of the resistance. This is not get rid of, but this is how you allow the resistance to dissipate, okay? You know that the 3D world, the external circumstances, it's not permanent. It's just temporary. But you approach the 3D in a different way. You're not saying it is not happening. You're saying, okay, this is what it is. That's fine. It changes all the time anyways. So for example, when you are in no contact with SP, it's actually easier to deal with the 3D because you won't be bombarded and triggered 24/7 by what you see in the 3D. If you're in no contact, and let's say you don't even have their social media, you can't see that they might be with a third party, or you can't see that they are having fun with their lives without you, or you can't see any number of things. If you're in no contact, you're not worried about them not responding to your text or reply in a timely manner simply because you're in no contact. You're not even texting or communicating in that time in the 3D at that point in time anyways. So you won't be triggered by that because and that's a powerful place to be in because that allows you to focus on yourself, right? So, yeah, if you're already in no contact, you wouldn't be messaging, you wouldn't be talking, you wouldn't be hanging out with them in the 3D. So anything contrary to your end state of already being in a happy, healthy relationship with them is not going to be contradicted by what you see in the 3D. That's why it's actually not that bad of a thing to be in no contact. So you don't have to ignore the 3D. You acknowledge that, okay, we're in no contact right now. That's totally okay. This can serve me in my manifestation, so I'm not triggered by it. So you can create the absolute ideal scenario of what your SP is going through when you do that. It doesn't matter what's actually happening in the 3D. When you're in no contact and you can't see them or hear them or you don't know what's going on with them, then you assign meaning to it. What are they going? Oh, they're missing me so much, right? Or whatever it might be, right? They are taking this time apart to really figure out themselves, become the best version of them that I want to be with, and they're just sorting that out. That's part of the unfolding. And they realize how much they missed me and how I was so perfect for them or how we were so perfect together. Whatever it may be, whatever story you want to tell and create, you have the ability to do that, especially when you're in no contact. Um, so, yeah, essentially, ignoring the 3D becomes a lot easier when you look at it from the perspective of they ultimately reflect you and you get to choose that by being in a particular state. And whenever you're manifesting, this, by the way, doesn't, I know I'm answering this question about SP, but this applies to any manifestation. Okay. So again, you don't need to ignore the 3D to manifest. You just have to acknowledge it and then approach it with a different way, a different frame of mind, right? The state of being that you are in when you are dealing with the 3D. You still behave or act normally in the 3D. Now, some people can go full on delusion and just like really believe it by simply saying things that simply are not true at the moment in the 3D experience. But again, you create your reality. So as soon as you say it, it is true in your reality, right? Where a lot of people get tripped up, of course, is the response from the 3D that contradicts what they are believing or saying. And then that gets them to spiral because then they start thinking that they're just fake and it's Delulu and that's when people spiral and that's when it doesn't work. So that's why I say like, don't ignore the 3D for most people, right? Don't ignore the 3D, but acknowledge it and just see it as temporary. It always changes. It's not going to be the same forever. And yeah, that's about it.